This is the last of 4 parts of my trip to Graubunden. I hope you've enjoyed the movie. This particular section was a bit unpleasant and steep then, but it's not anymore. And here's where I ran into a whole gaggle of people on their way down from Prada. Still more bridges to cross and to watch. Don't think there was a train on this one, but you can see how tall they are. And this one was only an average height. But there was a lot of work to put in to build these things some 104 years ago. I found some microwave transmission dishes, and I wasn't sure what they were until I tried to get a real good close-up. But that doesn't have anything to do with the railroad. Just getting the information across the heights here. And there are some beautiful heights. I found this area with a man and his son waiting to make pictures and a little girl up on the bridge as they're looking. So I was able to catch the train coming up to Prada, and in a few minutes after they crossed at Prada, and came down, going toward Graubunden. I was just getting ready to approach the little hamlet of Naz, spelled N-A-Z. And here I found another tablet having to do with the engineering of the tunnel. And then after I checked that out, even though the lighting is pretty poor, I found a bear warning poster. Bears didn't enter my thought until I was over halfway into the hike, and I just hoped it was late enough in the fall so that if any bear was around, he was either pretty sleepy or getting ready to take a nap. Right next to there is a poster warning about Bambi. Be careful with your dog and keep them on the leash. I don't know what the dog would do with a bear, but a dog would kill the baby deer. At Naz, there's a beautiful plateau, even though I was playing around with the backlighting. And it's a really nice stroll from Naz to Prada, with these twin mountains overlooking the landscape, and a few new snowfields. Naz is pretty well dead except in the middle of the summer when these houses are used as getaway cabins for people from the city. There's a great run of the creek and river through this flat area, which again is like a moor or swamp in its ecology. and I found a red spring which I had heard about. This is a result of water coming through iron ore. Most of the water is crystal clear, but I wouldn't drink it because there are cows around at some times during the year. Here's the first glimpse of Prada, which is the end of the line as far as I'm concerned. And I have to walk along a pretty nice path until it turns into a Wanderweg and goes through a beautiful patch of woods. And I'm not a woods walker, but then you can see there was more snow here than there had been down further toward Graubunden. There's the hotel at Prada, and all I have to do is cross this somewhat rickety looking but quite stable bridge, and I'll be in the backyard of the town. The weather is again only spectacular. This stone killed 3 men during the construction of the tunnel, and it's listed there along with this tablet showing the pioneers of the Albula tunnel. This is the final tablet in the hike, or the first if you're going down. This is how the holes were drilled to be packed with dynamite so that the blasting could take place. Did these with water drills. Prada is not exactly jumping with activity today or most any other day. It's mainly a stopover for hikers, but it's still a nice place to end your walk. And I'm sure in the wintertime it is desolate except for the sledders at the local Bahnhof. The hotel here I'm sure is closed in the winter, but it was open. I didn't visit. The local Bahnhof has been unmanned for at least 10 years or more. I've never seen civilization there. And here's the entrance into the tunnel, and where I expect a train most any minute to come and pick me up. There is a power station close by, so there are bound to be people here that man that, but I didn't see a soul except a few people parking, getting ready to go down the trail to Graubunden. Here's the height in meters above sea level at Prada. The station is well maintained, but isolated and empty. It wasn't very long until I heard the sounds of a train in the tunnel, and then saw the headlights of the engine as it came out and stopped and let me jump on board. Nobody gets off at Prada. This is a stone of a German from Kiel who died rescuing people when they were trapped inside the tunnel when it was being built, and cave-ins occurred. He didn't make it, but they put his body and his stone here in Graubunden. The cemetery is a pretty typical Swiss church cemetery, except it's quite small. But when you have only 600 people in town, I guess you don't need a huge cemetery. I noted that they do leave the bodies in at least 30 years here, so I guess there's no big rush. The town names, as usual, are inscribed here. Most of them have an Italian flavor. Then I saw the train coming down the hill on one of its switchbacks as it comes into Preda. It does this 3 or 4 times as it's slowly winding its way down into town, which is level with this cemetery. After checking out a few more gravestones and finding one that looked like he'd been sadly neglected for a decade, I decided it might be time to go have a look inside the church. You enter through the choir loft, and you can see it's a Protestant church, not the least bit ornate, but quite beautiful in its wall paintings, and the ceiling was something else. The camera doesn't do justice to the ceiling. How they keep this up, I'll never understand. Above the far window, there's an inscription that gives the dates when the church was built and the 3 dates when it was renovated or rebuilt. You can see it's no spring chicken. Outside once again, I was overcome with thirst, and I had not had anything to drink other than my Coke while up on the hiking path. I found a little joint that advertised around the corner there was a beer garden, and it was not hot but warm, and this first beer of the day hit the spot, especially in a nice little shady spot. After that, it was a trip to the grocery store for some chocolate, and then to head back to the hotel. The next day was a traveling day to go home, and it was nice and rainy and drizzly and unpleasant, and probably snowing up at Prada, so it didn't hurt me to leave. Although I'll tell you quite quickly, I'd enjoy coming back every year or two just to check things out on the Abfahrtkarte here and see what's going on in this part of Switzerland.